Welcome back, gang. It's Delta here from DeltaHisGaming.com, and in this video we're going over the Dragonknight. A lot of information on Stamina Magic Dragonknight and some really good information for regardless of what class you are. So stay tuned if you want to learn about the Dark Brotherhood changes for Dragonknights and other classes. So Stamina Dragonknights got a buff, even though they're already the top damage in the game PvE. And so the reason they got a buff is unknown. But what happened is a couple of the abilities changed their morphs specifically for poison damage. So Venomous Claw here, that's your single target ability, and this is your AoE ability that also gives Major Fractile. So it does poison damage. Why does that even matter? Well, if you come into the champion points, like I've said before, Mighty here is physical, poison, and disease. So it used to be that you would spec a lot of points into Elemental Expert, which is in the magic tree, and you'd lose some of the benefit of having these passives. And also now, if you spend points here, your rapid strikes will hit harder, your light attacks will hit harder, and also your abilities. So you don't have to put a bunch of champion points in different spots and still get the benefit. Also, some of these abilities can double dip in effectiveness. So if it's poison damage and it's a dot, it will benefit from Mighty increase and also benefit from Thaumaturge. Corrosive Armor also got a change to poison damage, so that's good as well. And some of the other non-class specific abilities you need to be aware of that are going to be important is Endless Hail is no longer fire damage, which is good for us because now we're pretty much all physical. And then Rearming Trap. This thing is a lot of damage, not to mention the buff that it gives you minor force. So most players run this regardless if they're magic or stamina and in most DPS situations. Now that it's physical damage, it also benefits from the Maelstrom Dagger buff, which I'm going to talk about and show you here in a little bit. So keep in mind, regardless of what class you're playing, you really want to work in Trap Beast in your rotation. Another reason that Stamina Dragonites are so effective, as we look at this little bug here with my dual wield, is the Maelstrom Daggers. So we look at the Maelstrom Daggers, and it's just incredible the benefit it gives you to cast this first and then apply your dots. The problem with the Stamina Dragonknight is there's so many good abilities to run, you're keeping track of a lot of damage over time effects. It's the most powerful, but it's the most complex as well. So if you're looking for an easy, simple build, Stamina Dragonknight is not the one you want. But if you're looking for something ultra powerful, it definitely is. So to give you an instance of just how many dots I'm going to talk about here and show you how you're going to weave in rapid strikes to get the most out of your dots. So even something in dual wield that a lot of people don't know about, Twin Blade and Blunt. This axe that you have, you only want to have one equipped because it doesn't double proc. But look at the damage it gives you with that axe, just weaving in attacks with it. Look at that, 8%. 8,700 over 6 seconds. Now this guy is not buffed. He's not 500 champion points, not best in slot armor. So as you can imagine, that number is going to go up quite a bit. So that's one dot that you can get light or heavy attacking. Another dot you're going to want, Noxious Breath. It's going to give you physical resistance, do damage over time, and AoE. Another, Venomous Claw. There's even more poison damage over 10.5 seconds. This can also benefit from rapid strikes. Noxious Breath, it says AoE, but it actually can benefit from rapid strikes as well, the initial target hit. So in single target boss fight, this is really just another single target dot is the way the game treats it. Rending Slash from dual wield, another dot you're going to want to maintain. It does a lot of damage over time, really, really heavy hitter. In your back bar, you're going to run, yes, you guessed it, a bunch more dots. One, Razor Caltrops. Now the game doesn't benefit from multiple people running Razor Caltrops, so it's not going to tick on top of each other. So usually just one person in a dungeon or a trial is going to want to run this. That's considered damage over time effect as well. Poison Injection. Oh wow, this thing is so incredibly powerful when the mobs dip below or even when they're at 100%. So you're going to want to keep up this dot. It also benefits from rapid strikes. Rearming Trap also benefits from rapid strikes, Maelstrom Daggers, making the damage one of the top contenders in damage over time effects. So it takes 60 seconds, you place it basically right at your feet, and then the boss or mob or whatever springs it, boom, does the damage and gives you the minor force. So it takes a little bit of time to learn how to properly use this, but remember, do rapid strikes first if you have the Maelstrom weapons. It does a lot of damage. And then Endless Hail. Yes, another dot. And this does a lot of damage. It's physical. It's AoE. You can get the other morph if you want more AoE, or you can just still Tornado and get the single target morph. So if we're doing math here, That's basically 1, 2, 3, plus my dagger, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 dots. And this is not necessarily the best build possible or anything like that. So this is why I say it's so complex to run a Stamina Dragonknight. It's not easy, but the effects are devastating. So let me kind of show you what we're looking at for the Stamina Dragonknight. So here's a little sample of kind of the damage and rotation that you would do in a Stamina Dragonknight. And what makes it so effective when you're doing movement-specific fights is that you always have dots going, a lot of dots. So meaning when you move, all of your damage isn't suffered from penalties where you're not doing damage over time, making it really, really valuable. So a couple things I would do is put Trap Beast down, get my buff obviously, and then I would do a heavy attack. And bang, you see my hands glow up like that? That's the Rapid Strikes buff from the Maelstrom Daggers. So if we hit it, and we go boom, see, it's single target, actually, what Noxter's Breath thinks it is. And look at those dots. That's with nothing on this guy. And he's already hitting that hard. So just so you know, heavy attack, you'll see that web there, huh? What is that? Well, let me explain. That's another benefit to running Mephallias on a Dragonknight, is that you can control when this proc happens. So for 10 seconds, look at that, 1200 poison damage. It can crit, and it can always be applied now because it's fully charged heavy attack. There's no percentage based, 50%, 75, 25, it's always. So that's your 9th dot to run, including the one on your axes. So it's very, very complex, but it does a whole lot of damage. Okay, some other things to think about with the Stamina Dragonknight is the sets that you want to run with it, or in a group to optimize this. Now, if you don't know, Morag Tong, Hawkeye, and some of them old PvP sets are coming back. You can buy them in bags at the PvP vendor for about 20,000 AP, so start saving your AP. Now you look at this 5-piece, attack causing targets take 15% more poison damage for 5 seconds. So what does this mean? It means that one person can run this in your group, and everyone gets that benefit. So imagine the Stamina Dragonknight, all them changes to poison, and on top of it, someone in your group or you, the Dragonknight, can run this set. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yes, this will outparse Hunting's Rage if you have all the other buffs up. So Hunting's Rage, Night Mothers is another really good option someone was going to run. And actually, City of Ash Thunderflame for the armor reduction. Alkosh, all of these things will stack up with your major and minor fractures. And then having a tank run Crushing Enchant on your weapon will basically strip almost any boss of armor. And so that's what you have to ask yourself is, in this specific Stamina Dragonknight, Hunting's Rage is a good set, but don't always think of this is the absolute best because it gives me weapon damage. There's other mechanics in the game that outparse just weapon damage and crit. Poison damage, armor reduction, a lot of people don't factor that in. So you can make a Stamina Dragonknight with a lot of different kits, a lot of different utility. So don't just make it one-dimensional. You don't have to use Mephallias. You can use a bunch of different things. You can use Scoria if you wanted. Narayan is not that popular, but it can work as well. Also, Ravager came back, and it gives you basically just a ridiculous amount of weapon damage. You can run 5 Ravager, 5 Huntings. Now, it's heavy armor, so your resources, well, they'll suck. But if you're doing like a really short fight and you just want, to impress your friends, try Werewolf when Ravager proc is up. You will do a ridiculous amount of damage, and it's pretty simple. So you have a lot of options in terms of running a Stamina Dragonknight now, and how to be effective is really up to you. Think about class combinations, class composition. It really matters. Who's running what buffs and how does it affect you? So Stam Dragonknight in PvP is still really popular. It's a lot of fun, but the big change is Wrecking Blow. So Wrecking Blow grants you Empower but doesn't stun. So now you're going to have to pick one or the other. Personally, I think this is a great change because empowering Wrecking Blows are just way too powerful. It doesn't really give up anything except the cast time, but that automatically stuns you and grants Empower makes this way too powerful. So I like the change. So for PvP, it's a no-brainer. I'm taking Dizzying Swing because stuns are the name of the game. And something that can automatically stun somebody with a 7-meter range and hit them very, very hard is great. Another thing that makes the Stamina DK a whole lot of fun in PvP is Take Flight. The whole meta is you could empower it with a Wrecking Blow and then do Take Flight and basically just 1 to 2 shot someone and do an Executioner and finish them. So that didn't change, but what did change here is Fighters Guild Dawnbreaker of Smiting. If you look at the damage on this and the damage over time, it's very, very comparative to Take Flight. You're not going to have that initial burst right off the bat, but it is cheaper. And this right here gives all the other classes a way to stun enemies with a physical damage dealing ultimate. So why am I bringing up this in a Dragonknight video? Well, it kind of gives other classes an option to have really fun bursty stam build and not just a Take Flight DK. So I'm really excited about this change, though it really doesn't affect my Dragonknight because I'm still going to rock Take Flight. Some other changes, I've got a lot of feedback on Werewolf, and I've seen people use it in PvP and rip my face off, frankly. So I would give Werewolf a try. It has a lot of cool things in it that the Dragonknight doesn't have in itself. So it has a leap, we know that, that's good. It has a self-heal. It has a fear, which is really handy in PvP, solo or otherwise. It has this physical knockdown damage dealing howl, which is amazing, and then a damage over time effect doing disease. Well, guess what? Disease, physical, and poison, we get that all in one place in the champion points. So Werewolf, I think, is really, really cool as a different type of ultimate to pair with maybe Take Flight. So if you're going to do a duel, or you came across 2 or 3 people, boom, go into Werewolf form. Believe me, they will get nuked right away, as I've experienced the other end of that. So Stam Dragonknight tanking is still really powerful, whether you do it magic or Stam. I prefer Stam. And a change that just happened last week is Stalwart Guard. You guys know I've been freaking out about this ability. Well, now it's a toggleable, but you get your resources back, so you can continue to regenerate stamina. I don't know if I like this change. I probably don't, because I've found ways to deal without the stamina regeneration, but now it's going to take up 2 spots on my bar instead of 1. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I can see this still being useful and still being very, very powerful. Now you'll just have to double bar it. So I plan on running a bunch of different tank builds in this next patch, probably all classes with different builds on it. It's going to take me a lot of time, but first it will be the T3 Dragonknight. Speaking of the T3 Dragonknight, the build still really works with using Bloodspawn, Tava's Blessing. I've been tanking Vet Maul with it right now, and I'm not getting killed because of it. I get killed because I stand in red circles. So if you're looking for a tank build that can handle all the latest content, it's still very, very effective. Lastly, there's a lot of room for making a PvP tank, and I've seen some really good players run a couple of PvP tanks, Sword and Board Dragonknight with heavy armor, and it's impressive what they can do and survive, and what benefit they provide for your individual faction. So if you didn't know, Power Bash changed. They went back to reverberating bash change, so it gives you major defile and has a nice little stun with it. Also, Power Slam. This is a really cool ability that I don't think a lot of people are going to use, but hits like a truck. It hits harder than Surprise Attack for a Nightblade. So you have to block an attack. Like, basically you hold block, and if you get hit, your shield will light up, and you can hit for 25% harder. So let me show you what this looks like. All right, let's find this poor bear here. I'm going to debuff him here, and I'm going to hold block. Do you see how my shield lights up? Bang! 8.2k non-crit. The nice thing about this is you don't have to hold block, and you have a single target spammable ability, and also an ability that can hit really, really hard and benefit from blocking. So it's kind of a cool build. It's going to take some time to work it out, how to maintain your resources and still use this effectively, but PvP tanking with the Stam Dragonknight can be done, or magic for that matter. A lot of cool builds, especially with Black Rose being brought back and being super effective with armor changes. What armor changes? Well, if you look at heavy armor, a couple of them change. Specifically, the most important is Wrath, in my opinion, and Constitution. So Constitution now got bonus 225%, the resources you get back. So when I was doing this with Black Rose, I was getting about 2,300 resources back every 4 seconds when I was getting hit. Now that also includes magic and stamina. So it's a really cool way to be tanky and effective. The nice thing is you compare this with the light armor type build, 5 heavy, 2 light, and get a lot of resources back, casting and stamina, while maintaining your block. I see a lot of PvPers will be switching or already using heavy armor casters going back to it. Also, you get some benefit for using heavy armor offensively. Weapon and spell damage up to 6 seconds, stacking 10 times. So that's pretty comparative to the medium armor or light armor 5-piece advantage in terms of damage specifically. So, heavy armor can be used pretty offensively. Would I use it in PvE, soloing, or roaming around? No, not so much. In PvP, yes, absolutely. Okay, so what's new with the Magic Dragonknight? Well, in my opinion, not a whole lot. Basically, the meta right now and what most people do at endgame builds is run almost the exact same build regardless of class. Not everyone, but generally speaking, a lot of people have found it very effective. They're using Force Pulse, which essentially is 3 attacks in 1 that can be spammed. This is your single target, and it's really effective on a Magic Dragonknight, not using Whip. Especially if you're going to run Bet Maw, because range is an issue, and switching to this build does give you some advantage. So a lot of people have found it effective to run that with the Dragonknight helm. Why? Well, 10% chance when causing damage to someone's Lich. So it deals damage, it's AoE, and it's magic. And it benefits from Force Pulse. Since it's 3 attacks in 1 comparatively to a Whip, you get more chances to proc this. Also, Scathing Mage. Scathing Mage is found in Imperial City, and when you crit, you get a massive amount of spell damage. So a lot of people are running 5 pieces of that, 2 pieces of Dragonknight, and then also if you have the new Vet Maw pieces, that can be fit in as well. So Magic Dragonknight is pretty much still the same, except a lot of single target abilities are using Force Pulse. Wall of Elements or Elemental Blockade, you're going to run the magic morphs of this. I don't really run Whip anymore, but you can put it on your bar just for the added benefit of the damage. And then you can run this dot here. So not a whole lot has changed Magic Dragonknight. Let's talk about Magic Dragonknight PvP. I would try to make a build Laceration and bring it back, but I just couldn't find that it was enjoyable, fun, or effective. And if those 3 things aren't there, I'm not going to make a build about it. Now, what's the opposite of Werewolf? Well, Vampire. Vampires can be really effective and make a big comeback, and it's always been very good with the Dumber Dragonknight. Why? Well, it just works. The fire damage, the flame, the Battle Roar passive here, getting all your resources back, having Blood Spawn proccing, so getting a lot of ultimate back. Dragonites are centered all around ultimate. And now that the added benefit of heavy armor gives you offensive minded, gives you resources, paired with Black Rose or Tava's Blessing and Bats for basically self-healing and AoE damage, it's really going to come back, I think. A lot of people are still using it. I just don't find it effective. Now, Talons you can throw in, and the interesting thing about Magic Dragonknight that attracts a lot of people is you can do magic AoE with Sword and Board. You don't need a whole lot of outside of abilities, so you can still be really tanky. Now the combination of heavy armor giving resources back and doing damage allows you to be that old Dragonknight super tanky thing with AoE bats. Also, another thing about Vampire that I'm really excited about is the fact that it removes roots and snares on you. So you can use Elusive Mist, get the 30% speed bonus to get out of dodge and then not be snared, not get left behind. So I can see a lot of 1vxers or whatever you want to call them start to use this combo once again. Another added benefit to going back to Vampire is Camo Hunter is no more. If we look at Camo Hunter, you're not going to get instantly nuked with a Camo Hunter shot at you anymore. Okay, so if you're looking to play a Dragonknight, magic, stamina, or tanking PvP, my best suggestion for you, I would pick a Redguard for PvE stamina. I pick a Dumber for magic PvE. For PvP, I pick a Dumber as well. And for Stam, I love my Orc. I love my Orc for the speed and the big, huge damage that it gives Wrecking Blow or now Dizzying Swing. Personally, Dragonites are a lot of fun for me. I love them tanking, but I still like my Templar overall for almost everything else. But Stam Dragonknight DPS right now is at the absolute top. There's a guy named Slayer that has a video doing over 40,000 damage in the last boss of Vet Maw. Just remember, it's really complex to get into. I'm a total nub and can't pull it off very, very good. There's a lot of people who can. So if you're striving to be the ultimate top-end damage in the next patch, roll a Redguard Dragonknight. You will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching. I will probably work on some other videos and get some screenshots and video footage for the next patch. So be ready for those videos, and hopefully I can get a little bit more out on poisons and tell you if they're effective or not. And then the Dark Brotherhood launches. Thank you. Subscribe, share, and we'll see you next time.